This is CNN.
I wasn't prepared for a riot like this, but everybody has been talking in my neighborhood and around me about something like the Watts riot happening again.
The City of Angels ignites in anger and violence after the verdicts in the Rodney King beating case are heard.
Angry mobs take to the streets, setting fires, looting stores, in some cases dragging people from cars, as the words "not guilty" echo across the city. As of this hour, a state of emergency is in effect. The National Guard is standing by, and the city is slapped with a dusk to dawn curfew. Good morning and welcome to CNN Morning News. I'm Bob Cain.
Hello, I'm Donna Kelley. Those emergency measures became the law of the land overnight after appeals for calm from Governor Pete Wilson and Mayor Tom Bradley failed to work. As it's described now, some uneasy calm that grips the streets of Los Angeles after a night of rioting left at least 8 people dead, more than 100 hurt.
3 of the white police officers were found not guilty on all charges. A 4th was acquitted on all but one of the charges, and a mistrial was declared on that count. 2 of our guests today will debate yesterday's verdict. We will also discuss the outcome of the trial with the attorney for the officer in charge the night of the beating.
One of the big questions coming from those who oppose the verdict: how could any jury vote for acquittal after watching the videotape of King repeatedly being kicked and beaten by nightstick-wielding police on the night of March 3rd, 1991?
Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley says he understands people's angry reaction to the verdict.
People have to vent their anger, their frustration. This was shocking. Nobody could have anticipated this verdict. So they must get that out. Sort of exercise the relief that comes from saying, I'm mad as hell.
Bradley adds that it is his job to see that law and order are maintained, and he will do what it takes to do just that.
In-depth coverage of all this just ahead right now. Let's begin with a look at today's weather.
Valerie Voss is here. Val?
Well, still cool in parts of the eastern U.S., and some cities have broken records for overnight low temperatures. But the big story is the big heat out across the west, and it is now going to slide into the plain states, and we'll have kind of a warm-cold whammy over the upper Midwest. Warm air moving up that way, but a cold front's going to swing right in behind and bring some stormy weather before the day is out. A few storms across the southeast, more rain showers and windy conditions out through parts of the west. I'll have a complete weather update in just a few moments. Bob Cain, Donna Kelley are back with the news right after these messages.
You can saw logs at any hotel, but at Residence Inn, you can burn them too. Residence Inn by Marriott, the extended stay hotel. At Residence Inn, we've made room service available 24 hours a day. Residence Inn by Marriott, the extended stay hotel.
Recently, the International Motorsports Association held a decathlon, performance and control. Over 22 days, 7 cars competed in 10 events to determine which was best overall. It wasn't Acura or Volvo, nor Mercedes or Mazda, nor Lexus or BMW, but the Audi 100 V6, the IMSA Decathlon Gold Medal winner.
Some days my minor arthritis acts up, and I really feel the pain. I used to take aspirin. Now I've switched to Advil. Advil relieves the pain in my stiff joints. In fact, 1 Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. And Advil is gentler to my stomach. Maybe that's why doctors recommend Advil for minor arthritis pain, more than any other brand. For my pain, I simply prefer Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
This is the Maytag Jet Clean dishwasher. With 47 powerful jets that scrub from the top, bottom, and sides, it's made to do the dishes with little help from you. Or me. Maytag, the dependability people.
Sunday, TBS presents the movie that made Clint Eastwood an international superstar.
Go ahead, load up and shoot.
Fistful of Dollars. 10:35 Eastern Sunday morning on TBS.
I join with Mayor Bradley and the leaders in particular of the black community, who have urged the people of Los Angeles to remain calm. Clearly the rioters are ignoring that. Bitter irony, of course, is that the injury that is being done to South Central Los Angeles will be hurtful to the residents of that area.
Yes, go ahead.
California Governor Pete Wilson urges calm as riots break out after the acquittal of 4 white policemen in the beating of a black motorist. We'll have a live report on the latest from Los Angeles in a minute, but first, a look at a night of rage in the City of Angels. More than 400 fires, mostly targeting businesses, were reported during the first 90 minutes after midnight. Firefighters needed police protection from snipers. One firefighter is in very serious condition after being shot. Mayor Tom Bradley has ordered a curfew for tonight for the area of South Central Los Angeles where the violence was concentrated. A state of emergency is in place for all of Los Angeles County. There were reports of rioters dragging motorists from their vehicles and beating them. A witness to one beating helped get a trucker to the nearest hospital.
I saw him, again, being beat when he approached the intersection of Normandy and Florence. And I seen exactly what transpired during the whole course of his being beaten. He actually crawled up into the truck and made it 2 blocks down before I actually started helping out. So next thing you know, when he finally got up into the truck and made it 2 blocks, then I was one of the guys who helped him further on into the truck, and we helped drive the truck all the way back here to Daniel Freeman Hospital. I feel bad, again, because you find bad in all races, don't get me wrong. But I just really feel that this man didn't have a chance, and I really don't feel that he was part of that bad scene.
Looters emptied the shelves of a supermarket and convenience and appliance stores. Many of those on the streets were young. Some merchants began cleaning up debris early this morning. About 2,000 National Guardsmen are on standby in case violence flares again. The jurors in the Rodney King beating trial acquitted the 4 officers of all charges but one, deadlocking on account of excessive force against one officer. A mistrial was declared on that charge. In a statement released this morning, President Bush called on all residents to be calm and abide by the law as the legal process in this case continues. CNN camera crews have been on the streets of Los Angeles all night, and reporter Ann McDermott has been with them for the past couple of hours. She joins us now live with an update on the situation. Ann?
Well, just a few minutes ago, Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates held an impromptu press conference, and he told reporters that things seem to be relatively calm right now. Yes, there are still some fires burning, but security for the firefighters is no longer an issue. There are still some isolated pockets of violence, and occasionally here in the background, we do hear the sound of gunfire, and there is occasional looting, even at this hour, according to the chief of police. Most of these are done, the looting is being done by young people, we are told, people dressed like gang members. But the chief of police went on to say that the police are taking charge of the streets.
I think as they learn that we are now mobilized and that we are going to put them in jail if they break the law, that they'll realize it's time to go home and rethink what they've been doing. This makes no sense whatsoever. It does not help anything. They're not helping themselves. As a matter of fact, quite frankly, the good people are at home. And what you have out there are people that have just wanted an excuse to steal. They've taken this as an excuse to steal, and that's exactly what you see.
It's a little after 6 in the morning here right now, and shopkeepers are checking in on their stores to see what's left, and for some, there's not much. In some instances, looters have carried or driven away just about anything they could get their hands on, leaving behind little more than debris. But as we said earlier, things have calmed down quite a bit. This may be partly attributed to the curfew. Police are cracking down and enforcing it right now, making arrests. And for most of the people here, especially those that live in the neighborhoods that have been touched by the violence, they're only hoping that this calm will continue.
And you mentioned it is a bit calmer, and partly because of the curfew. Might it also help to maintain control and bring about a sense of more justice if folks are told about Reverend Jesse Jackson's meeting with the U.S. Attorney today, as is President Bush, and looking at the possibility of the Justice Department getting involved in a federal investigation?
Well, I'm sure that could help. as you know, people are just very, very angry, and a lot of folks from what they're telling us, what we're seeing is that they feel they have no way to vent their anger except by this. However, it is important to point out that many, many people in these communities are just as upset with this violence as anyone else, and they are joining with city officials and community leaders and saying, please calm down.
And the National Guard has been put on standby. Do you see them on the streets?
We have seen them arriving at the command center, and the police chief told us that probably by about 10 this morning, that's in about 4 hours from now, some will be mobilized and out on the streets, but so far we haven't seen any yet.
Do you have any later confirmed numbers for us? We are getting 8 dead and perhaps as many as 150 injured.
That is the same figures I have, 8 dead and close to 150 wounded. Many of those were gunshot wounds, and as we've seen on some of the tapes earlier, some of the people were beaten, and just a wide variety of accidents or inflicted injuries, rather, that have kept hospital emergency personnel extremely busy throughout the evening and early morning hours.
And Ann, I know that some journalists have run into some problems, including our own CNN folks. Can you briefly tell us about that?
Yes, we were in the middle of a live shot. I was doing a live shot, and in our live truck, which was some distance away, a man came by, poked his head in through the live truck, and took a swing at some of our people. He hit CNN's producer, Veronica McGregor, in the jaw, and it was very painful, but other than being badly shaken, she's all right. But it was a very scary moment, kind of symbolized some of the random acts of violence that have been occurring throughout the evening and early morning hours.
From Los Angeles, Ann McDermott, thank you very much. Bob?
In a moment on Morning News, we will talk with the attorney for the police officer in charge on the scene the night of the Rodney King beating.
The Sony Handycam camcorder. It can play back on any TV. So you can watch what you shot on vacation, even while you're still on vacation. For easy playback on any TV, the answer is Sony, without question.
Kids have room to play in Virginia. They can climb our Blue Ridge Mountains, build the world's biggest sandcastles along Virginia's beaches, scream all they want at our theme parks. And if they get up early on a Chesapeake summer morning, they'll see something they'll remember forever. A big kid named Johnny Forrest catching the best dinner of their lives. Call for your free Virginia vacation guide.
Every morning, everywhere, when the sun wakes up the sky, let Folgers be there to open up your eyes. For it's so stirring room, nothing that aroma can do. Waking you and me, waking everyone in harmony. It's the best part of waking up. It's Folgers in your cup.
The telephone is one of your most important business tools. But on the road, are you always hanging around waiting for messages? Now freedom can be in the palm of your hand, because now there's Mobilecom nationwide messaging. It's America's most complete paging service. Mobilecom gives you more coverage coast to coast, customized regional coverage, and text messaging. So don't get hung up waiting on messages. Get Mobilecom nationwide messaging. Just call 1-800-685-5555.
I think we're moving now a little more firmly in terms of getting the people on the street. It's taken us a little longer than I had hoped, but we are moving now to sector off the area, taking an awful lot of our people to go with the fire department. That's held us back also.
That was Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates early this morning telling reporters how officers hope to control the rioting. And now the latest update on the Los Angeles rioting for you. Rioters set dozens of fires in Los Angeles as the city turned violent in the wake of the not guilty verdicts in the Rodney King police beating trial. President Bush issued a statement this morning appealing for calm. At least 8 people are dead. More than 100 others are injured. Heavily armed police guarded firefighters as they battled the blazes. Well, some people tossed rocks at cars and buildings. Looters entered stores, taking with them anything they could carry. 2,000 members of the California National Guard have been mobilized, but they've not been sent out yet. If you were with us a couple of minutes ago, Ann McDermott, our correspondent in Los Angeles, told us that some have been seen. Along streets, it's apparent how much damage there's been. Stores that were not burned down had windows smashed and doors broken down. A state of emergency has been declared in the city and county of Los Angeles.
The on-the-scene police officer in charge the night of the Rodney King beating was Sergeant Stacy Kuhn. Kuhn also was the officer who used the taser stun gun on King. Joining us this morning is Kuhn's attorney, Darrell Munger. His client testified in his own defense, calling the beating a managed and controlled use of force. Darrell Munger joins us from our Los Angeles bureau. Good morning, Mr. Munger.
Good morning.
Let me begin by asking you first, honestly, in your heart of hearts, were you surprised by the verdict?
No.
Are you saying you expected your client to be acquitted?
I expected my client to be acquitted because there was not any proof that he had committed anything that he had done any act that was criminal. And I didn't believe that this should have been a criminal case to start with.
Clearly, then, your client did not agree with Officer Ted Briseno, whose conclusion was that the incident of the night of the Rodney King beating had gotten out of control.
Well, you have to take Officer Briseno's statements in the context of what he totally saw. And he clearly said he didn't see much of what was happening out there.
In as few and simple words as possible, why were these men not guilty of administering a brutal beating to a relatively helpless man?
Well, you have to look at what the question is supposed to be, and it's not whether or not Mr. King was beaten. Certainly he was. You have to look at what were they trying to do. They were trying to arrest him. And what alternatives did they have available to them based upon the training and experience they had? Some time ago, the Los Angeles Police Commission and the City Council and the mayor took away the chokehold from police officers because several young black men had died because of that chokehold. Had that chokehold been available to these officers, this whole incident would have lasted maybe 10 or 15 seconds.
We have a report, Mr. Munger, only a report, as far as I know at this point, that at the beginning of deliberations, several of the jurors, at least 4, I have heard, were in favor of finding them guilty, the defendants. Where were they coming from?
I have no knowledge that there were 4 willing to find them guilty. I understand that at the culmination of the trial, when a mistrial was declared, that 4 were for guilt of Mr. Powell and 8 were for innocent.
Is there any way in your view that police could not interpret the verdict yesterday as amounting to permission to severely beat a person in Rodney King's situation?
Well, I don't see police work that way at all, right? And I don't see that any police officer would believe that he could ever beat an individual unless he had lawful justification.
Let me ask you about the question of our all being stunned by this verdict. The question almost seems to beg the question, but I have to ask you, are we the American people, having seen the videotape of the Rodney King beating, but not having sat through either the trial or jury deliberations, qualified to render a verdict in this case?
Well, I personally don't believe so. That's why we have the jury system, and those 12 people are the only people in 15 months that have seen all of the evidence. And I think it's very clear that what a lot of people thought was clear upon a first viewing of the videotape, when that videotape was broken down, and when the witnesses came in and testified under oath, and you saw the vast discrepancies in what people believed they saw versus what the physical evidence shows that they could have seen, it is a lot different story. That videotape is a very small portion of the evidence, but it was very beneficial to the defense.
Conversely, would you grant that it is possible for a jury to make a mistake?
Well, of course juries could make mistakes, but I think that nobody will ever know what is in the mind of any juror that we have in our society, but that they have to let their conscience be their guide, and they have to uphold the oath that they have taken. And that's what we all expect from jurors. We expect them to find the truth based upon the evidence that they hear in court. There was a lot of evidence that never came out in court about Briseno, certainly about my client, Mr. Kuhn. We never brought out that he had given CPR to a black transvestite that had collapsed in a police station. That's not the act of a racist. And what people are trying to see is what they want to see. Some people want to see racism in this case, and it's just not there.
Darrell Munger, thank you for talking with us.
Thank you.
Morning News continues in a moment with a discussion by two people involved in the case, at least indirectly now, and who can be expected to be on opposite sides of the issue.
I was already late for my meeting when my flight landed. Lucky for me, someone left a courtesy car. I had to get the dollar rent-a-car pass. I knew they were right on the airport with low rates.
Welcome to Dollar.
Hello, I have a car rental reservation.
No problem. I'll just punch it up on the computer. Dollar Rent-A-Car is right on the airport, right on the money, with unlimited mileage and locations worldwide. Call your travel consultant or Dollar at 1-800-800-4000.
We drove an engine 200,000 grueling miles using new Mobil 1. Then we ripped it apart. What did we find? Nothing. Nothing. Virtually no engine wear. What kept these vital engine parts like new? This part. New Advanced Formula Mobil 1. It keeps your engine running like new.
Some of you lucky people are getting new calling cards from AT&T. There's just one little hitch. That easy-to-remember card number you've always had? It's history. But don't worry, you can still have a card with your home number plus 4 digits. The new phone card from Sprint. Call now, and it even comes with 100 minutes free. So, which phone company's calling card would you rather have now?
Recently, the International Motorsports Association held a decathlon, performance and control. Over 22 days, 7 cars competed in 10 events to determine which was best overall. It wasn't Acura or Volvo, nor Mercedes or Mazda, nor Lexus or BMW, but the Audi 100 V6, the IMSA Decathlon Gold Medal winner.
It is 22 minutes past the hour. Much of the shock and anger being expressed about yesterday's verdict in the Rodney King case is over its fairness. Many people are asking how the jurors could come up with not guilty verdicts for nearly all the charges against 4 police officers after watching the famed videotape of the beating. Joseph Hicks is the executive director of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Los Angeles. Gary Hankins is a retired Washington, D.C. police officer who is currently president of the city's chapter of the Fraternal Order of Police. Hankins joins us from our Washington Bureau. Hicks is in Los Angeles. Mr. Hicks, let me begin with you and ask you, was the verdict fair?
Well, the verdict was not fair at all, and clearly by the reactions of people all across this country, in particular in Los Angeles, I don't think you could find an additional set of 12 people who would say that that was a fair verdict at all.
Mr. Hankins?
Well, first of all, I'd have to say that I was very surprised by the verdict personally, but I don't think we should try to second-guess the people who reached that conclusion. They saw all of the evidence, and we didn't. I saw the tape. I was shocked by it. I was dismayed by it. But I think we have to continue to have faith that the 12 people who reached that conclusion did so after seeing a lot more evidence than we did.
All right, that's the question I was going to ask you. You clearly, Mr. Hankins, feel you clearly expected a guilty verdict in this case. I'm not putting words in your mouth there?
I would not have at all been surprised by a guilty verdict. I still believe that the police profession and law enforcement and our establishment has been harmed by what was shown on that videotape. And it may not have reached the level of criminal behavior in the minds of the jurors, and that's what we all have to abide by. But the investigations aren't over. They have to be investigated by the U.S. Department of Justice for civil rights violations and by their own departments for violations of their administrative procedures for use of force. So they haven't walked away from this scot-free, and I don't think that they represent the finest among law enforcement by any means.
There are, or soon will be, Mr. Hicks, people who are saying that by far the greater crimes are those committed during the course of the past 12 hours. Not only the vandalism, certainly, but the killings of perhaps half a dozen, perhaps more people by rioters in Los Angeles. Homicides. What's your response to that?
Well, what we're seeing, of course, is extremely tragic. I mean, I've lived through this once. I was living in the community in 1965 when the Watts Revolt took place, and it's clearly deja vu for me to be seeing these scenes and walking about the community and watching this go on. But clearly, I think what has spurred this is seeing Mr. Munger basically, and he did a good job at what he was supposed to do, which was convince 12 people that and the American public that what they saw was in fact not what they saw. So he did a good job at that, and those 4 individuals are walking free today. But
But Mr. Hicks, are we the American people who saw what the police did to Rodney King in the segment of the taped beating that we have seen repeatedly on television, but did not sit through the trial, were not bound by the judge's instructions to the jury on how to interpret the law, qualified to render the verdict we are rendering?
Well, I think, we have to be able to make those kind of judgments. I don't think that we have to say that, as you pose the question, Mr. Munger, can a jury make a mistake? And I think this jury has clearly made a mistake. And I think that individuals like you or I can, in fact, I think most of us have monitored that trial. We have listened to most of the evidence ourselves. We are aware of what the instructions were of the jury. I think we can make informed decisions about whether that jury did the right thing or not. In my decision, and millions of people across this country, and in fact, the world who've seen this travesty, would conclude that no, they have made a mistake, and this is an embarrassment to the American justice system.
Mr. Hankins, I have to ask you the same question I asked Mr. Munger a few moments ago. Is there any way police cannot interpret this ruling as what amounts to permission to beat a pretty much helpless person lying on the ground, at least in some circumstances?
Well, I'm afraid that the question unveils some prejudice about and preconceptions about police officers. Police officers, for the vast majority, are not out here trying to find excuses to use force against anyone. In fact, they are individuals who are altruistic, who are trying to help. They are not going to look at this and react as some kind of bloodthirsty crowd ready to spring on innocent victims because they've now been given some kind of permission. That's simply not the case. It's, and in fact, the wrong context. Most of the officers I know are upset.
Excuse me, that was not the implication. I think
not by you, sir, but I mean, that's essentially what we're hearing. I think that police officers today have become one of the most visible minorities. Even minority racial members of the law enforcement community are accused of racism and bigotry when they use force during arrests. And I find it very ironic that people who represent oppressed minorities, historically oppressed minorities, are the first to make prejudicial assumptions about law enforcement officers based on the actions of a minority within our group.
All right, Gary Hankins in Washington and Joe Hicks in Los Angeles, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Morning News continues after this.
I'm not exactly known for being subtle, so I told Sprint the phone card had too many complicated numbers. Well, they fixed that. The new phone card has fewer numbers to dial, and the card number is even based on my home number. So now it's a lot easier to use. Of course, they'll probably say it was all their idea.
After examining, testing, analyzing, it's a fact. You can buy new Preparation H hydrocortisone cream with the maximum strength available without a prescription. It has a level of medicine that was prescribed by doctors for years. New Preparation H hydrocortisone cream. It's new, it's maximum strength, and it effectively relieves problem itch. New Preparation H hydrocortisone cream. Prescription strength without a prescription.
Morning News continues, followed by World Day, after this local commercial break. Next on CNN.
Don Wyckoff started with one truck, knowing that good service plus quality products at a fair price would make his business successful. Now, almost 50 years later, the Wyckoff family maintains those same ideals. No company gives better service, and Wyckoffs recommend only top-of-the-line products like Comfort Maker heating and cooling systems. High-efficiency Comfort Maker heat pumps and furnaces are known worldwide for performance and dependability, guaranteed to give year-round comfort and economy. Call Don Wyckoff Heating, serving your family for generations.
Right now at your Earl May Nursery Garden Center, stock up on America's #1 weed killer, Ortho Weed Be Gone. Kill Creeping Charlie, dandelions, henbit, spurge, thistles, and many more. Wipe out more weeds with a name you trust. Ortho Weed Be Gone. It's just $5.99 right now at any Earl May Nursery and Garden Center. But you'd better hurry. At this price, it won't last long. Ortho and Earl May, names you can trust. When it comes to lawn care, Earl May knows.
This is CNN.
Here is an update for you now on the situation in Los Angeles. At least 8 people are reported dead in widespread rioting in the city. 40 fires are still burning and 700 firefighters are battling them. One firefighter has been wounded by a bullet. Sniper fire and beatings have been reported through the night and more than 100 people have been injured. At least 25 arrests have been made. Many stores have been looted. A state of emergency has been declared. The California National Guard has been mobilized, and a dusk to dawn curfew is in effect in Los Angeles. The Justice Department is considering a civil rights investigation of the 4 police officers involved in the Rodney King beating. A hearing is scheduled May 15th on whether to retry Officer Lawrence Powell on the one charge on which the jury deadlocked. 3 of the officers face a police department disciplinary hearing. A federal civil rights lawsuit by King is still pending, as is his $83 million claim against the city of Los Angeles.
Wall Street had a winning day yesterday. For a look now at the factors likely to be influencing today's trading and other business developments, Beverly Shook at the Business News Desk in New York.
Good morning, Bob. The last of the big 3 automakers just reported its first quarter earnings. Chrysler says it lost only $13 million in the first 3 months of this year, and that is a major improvement over the same period last year when Chrysler lost almost $600 million. The economy is a 3-time winner, at least as far as the government's index of leading economic indicators is concerned. For the 3rd straight month, the LEI rose. It rose in March, a positive 0.2%. That's about what was expected. The LEI is designed to forecast the direction of the economy in the next few months. And the Labor Department says 404,000 people applied for first-time benefits for the 3rd week of April. That is the same number as the previous week and the 4th straight week without an increase. And in about a half an hour, we will be reading the output on the nation's factories last month. Factory orders for March are expected to have risen about 1%. And trading on Wall Street just getting underway right now. In the first few minutes of trading, the Dow is just down about 4 points. We will have more in about an hour. I'm Beverly Shook, reporting from the CNN Business News Desk in New York.
If you are assuming the milk you buy at the market is fortified by vitamin D, you could be wrong.
Well, despite what's on the label, some milk has no vitamin D at all, and some has way too much. That's the conclusion of a Boston University investigation triggered by 8 illnesses in Massachusetts. CNN's Carolyn O'Neill has more in our Food and Health Report.
Something went wrong with the milk last year at the Crescent Ridge Dairy in Sharon, Massachusetts.
I think it was an unfortunate situation as far as we were concerned.
The unfortunate situation was a slip in procedure. Too much vitamin D was added to the vitamin D fortified milk. 500 times too much. A report in the New England Journal of Medicine concludes that this caused toxic overdoses in at least 8 individuals, including 1 infant.
It's very serious business. It turns out that the child probably will have irreversible kidney damage, and the elderly lady is not around to discuss it.
Then Dr. Hollick and colleagues initiated another investigation, sampling vitamin D fortified milk from 5 eastern states.
Indeed, some of the milk samples contain no vitamin D at all, and some contain at least 1.5 times the amount of vitamin D that was stated on the label.
Milk has been fortified with vitamin D since the 1930s to wipe out the bone-deforming disease rickets. At the turn of the century, rickets plagued over 85% of children living in North America and Europe. So vitamin D fortification is a good thing if it's done properly. The federal government leaves it up to the states to monitor vitamin fortification of milk.
And let me stress, I'm quite confident that there is no national public health problem here. However, I do believe that national standards might be certainly something worth considering.
But Dr. Hollick says his investigation shows
the milk industry has not been careful in monitoring the vitamin D content in the milk supply, and I would hope that they would now do a better job at it.
And although the huge overdose of vitamin D at Crescent Ridge was considered just a fluke,
We don't seem to be alone in the inconsistent fortification of milk. So that's why we need a little closer monitoring of vitamin addition.
The ultimate question remains, is vitamin D fortified milk safe to drink?
We're not advising people to stay away from milk. The amount of vitamin D in excess that we found is in no way intoxicating, will be of no consequence to the consumer, even if they're drinking up to a quart and a half a day.
And if there's not enough vitamin D in milk, going outside will help. The skin makes its own vitamin D from sunshine. Carolyn O'Neill, CNN, Atlanta.
The Good Neighbor pharmacist said vitamin A is for eyesight and vitamin C is for bones.
Good.
Or was C for eyesight and A for bones?
Call and ask again.
Okay.
Also ask which vitamin is for memory.
I enjoy helping people learn more about the health products they use.
We have cold medicine, but it's expired.
But
Gesundheit.
it may still work.
I'll go call the Good Neighbor pharmacist.
Our tissues have expired too.
Trust me for honest answers and all your health needs.
I was going through some trade confirmations, and bang, it hit me.
This has got to stop.
My broker talked me into something I didn't want. It's not doing well, and I still paid all this commission.
Common sense says you shouldn't pay for advice you don't want. That's why active investors come to Fidelity for discount brokerage and save up to 65% on stock and option commissions.
Yesterday before work, I called my broker. Not in. Called at lunchtime. Out.
Gone for the day.
Called after work. Gone.
No message.
You can trade round the clock and enjoy the great service that's made Fidelity America's largest mutual fund company. At locations nationwide, even by PC with never a sales pitch. Over 2 million investors know it's easy doing business with Fidelity. Call Fidelity now for this free excerpt from the bestseller One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch, plus everything you need to get started. Call 1-800-842-7900. Fidelity Investments. Common sense. Uncommon results.
Nearly 5.5 billion people live on this planet, 1/5 in absolute poverty. How long can the Earth's resources sustain a birth rate spiraling out of control? The People Bomb, Sunday, 9 Eastern on CNN.
As far as we are concerned, the evidence was there. So when it went to trial, we had a feeling that something like this might happen. I wasn't prepared for a riot like this, but everybody has been talking in my neighborhood and around me about something like the Watts riot happening again, and it hasn't.
So I think it has to start within them, you know, within the society, within these people that are running things, basically. I think they have to change if they want us to change.
Los Angeles residents reacting to verdicts in the Rodney King beating trial. Those verdicts acquitted 4 Los Angeles policemen on nearly all charges and touched off the night of rioting. In probably several minutes, we expect to bring you extended remarks from Police Chief Daryl Gates in an interview he did with CNN. That's coming up probably before the top of the hour. And now with a look at what's ahead on CNN's World Day, Reed Collins in Washington. Reed?
Thank you, Donna. The United States and Vietnam, 17 years ago it was, the last U.S. chopper left Saigon, and there are still more than 2,000 Americans listed as missing in action in the region. Is it time yet to concede that no more Vietnam vets will return home? Senator Kelley will talk about a fact-finding trip to Southeast Asia, and of course we'll get live updates on the situation in Los Angeles, all coming up at the top of the hour on World Day. Bob, Mark?
Reed, Mark McKay joins us from the CNN Sports Desk. Morning.
Yes, our sports report begins in Los Angeles. As we've seen for many hours now, it was a disturbing night of violence in the greater L.A. area, but inside the Forum, it was a totally different world. The Lakers and Portland Trail Blazers forged ahead with Game 3 of their best-of-5 playoff series, unaffected yet not unaware of incidents taking place just a few miles away. The game was one that Los Angeles needed to win in order to avoid being swept out of the playoffs, and Byron Scott decided to do it on his own. End of regulation, picks it up and puts it in. Los Angeles by 3, Scott with 24 last night. Terry Porter came right back, though. On the next possession, hits the 3 to even it up with 30 seconds to play. The game went to overtime in OT. Off the Terry Teagle miss, it's the Blazers' Jerome Kersey running the 4-on-2 break. The dish to Clyde Drexler. He jams it, and Portland leads by 2. Blazers could not put it away, though, as Vlade Divac puts the bucket in and draws the foul. Lakers have a 1-point lead. Clyde Drexler could have tied this thing up with a free throw, but that was his first miss of the night from the line. He had been 11 of 11. Blazers with one last shot at the end. No double overtime, but instead a Laker victory. Portland still leads this series, but the Lakers are still hanging around.
It was big for us. We came home and the fans really got behind us. We came out very aggressively and they got behind us to give us that championship atmosphere, and I think it really lifted our players because we really didn't use that many guys.
Now, the Lakers can even the count with a win at the Forum on Friday night. It's worth noting that the Los Angeles Clippers are scheduled to play Utah tonight in Game 4 of their ongoing series at the LA Sports Arena, which is precariously close to the areas affected by last night's disturbances. Here's the Wednesday scoreboard roll. Sports returns to CNN next hour during World Day with the Stanley Cup playoff story on a night that was fit to be tied. Donna, Bob?
Mark, thanks. Coming up on CNN's Morning News, Valerie Voss says most of the nation will be warm today.
Also ahead, an update from Los Angeles where police and fire crews continue trying to stop a night of rioting and burning.
After a hard day in the outback, dreams of the good life come easy. At Outback Steakhouse, we decided to bring these dreams to America. Well, most of them anyway. Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
Dale Earnhardt, why are you getting your oil changed at a GM dealership? The fast or free guarantee. Fast or free? Yep, takes 29 minutes or less or my next one's free. Gotta go now. And Earnhardt's back in record time.
See your Mr. Goodwrench Quick Lube Plus dealer. Come in for a Mr. Goodwrench Quick Lube Plus oil change and you could win one of 21 GM vehicles. There's millions of prizes. Just come in, scratch and win during the Flag of Winter sweepstakes at your participating GM dealer. Now.
How bad are your allergies?
Terrible.
Terrible allergy attack?
I feel like I just want to unscrew my head, take it off.
Suppose I took your Benadryl away.
I'd be home in bed.
Would you try this new allergy medicine?
Does it work the same?
Dristan Allergy has a decongestant, and this Benadryl doesn't. So it relieves nasal congestion and pressure Benadryl can't. Let's try it.
Okay. I feel fantastic.
Why?
I can breathe through my nose. I don't need a tissue anymore.
New Dristan Allergy. Dristan, the face of relief today.
You thought you were just fine in bed until your husband brings home an instructional video. Do adult videos help or hurt the average person's sex life? Find out today on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
His car was hit, his windshield was hit simultaneously with many bricks. People climbed in his window, beat him in the face with beer bottles, severe lacerations all over his face. He was unconscious.
A witness tells us crowds attacked passing motorists, examples of some of the violence today in Los Angeles.
As the day begins in Los Angeles, fires are raging and tension is high following a night of violence. Rioting erupted in some parts of the city after 4 white police officers were acquitted on all but one charge in the beating of black motorist Rodney King. 8 people, at least 8 people are dead, more than 100 are injured, and hospitals are swamped. Tempers flared as news of the verdict spread. People took to the streets, setting blaze after blaze. Fire crews, in some cases, dodged bullets to fight the flames. Scores of fires still are raging. Vandals tore through some streets on a noisy and destructive rampage. Governor Pete Wilson has declared a state of emergency, and the National Guard is on alert. Most of the violence broke out in predominantly black South Central Los Angeles. A dusk to dawn curfew has been slapped on the city to help curb the chaos. Dawn brought a scene of bloodshed and destruction. President Bush is calling for calm. He says yesterday's verdict leaves everyone with a sense of personal frustration, but he's urging those in Los Angeles to respect the law and the civil rights of others.
Now 15 minutes before the hour. This is Thursday, April 30th.
Valerie Voss is here with a look at the weather for you. Val?
Well, Donna, Bob, we've been talking about how those fires in Los Angeles have affected arrivals and departures at the Los Angeles airport. Arrivals now delayed as much as 3 hours, departures 1 hour, and you can expect that there will probably be some canceled flights as well. So if your destination is Los Angeles or you're planning to fly out of Los Angeles, you should definitely call your airline. Across the Southwest today, it will be another hot day, but the hottest weather, in terms of relatively speaking, moves into the northern plain states where we could probably see some records broken today. 50s and 60s, though cooler in the Pacific Northwest with a frontal system and showers. We'll see some 40s on the map again across the northern Great Lakes. 50s and 60s northeast, mostly 70s southeast. More record overnight low temperatures were broken across parts of Florida and the east coast of the U.S. Precipitation will be generally light across the northeast. Some showers and thunderstorms will develop with time. A few will linger over southern Louisiana. Could see some pretty severe storms in a couple of thunder showers through Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. This is the warm-cold whammy I was talking about. Warm air is moving that way, but cold air is going to be pulled down across the region by tomorrow. And in fact, across Minnesota today, the temperature range will be about 40 degrees. Showers will continue through the northwest. The southwest will stay quiet, although gusty winds are in the forecast through much of the western U.S. Here's your forecast now for some cities we hope are close to you. The World Weather Tour in about a half an hour. Morning News continues now with Donna Kelley.
Thank you, Valerie. Right now, continuing on to update you on the situation in Los Angeles, we get a live picture for you right now from KTTV over south central Los Angeles. As you can see clearly, smoke there billowing up in the sky. Some buildings overnight continued to blaze. Early this morning, some firefighters were shot at as they tried to put out the fires, and police were trying to protect the firefighters as they were battling the fires. One report we see this morning from Associated Press saying that police are saying now that 9 people have died in the rioting overnight and as many as 138 people have been injured. We'll check in now with Bert Wolf. Morning News continues.
That is the statue of Ponce de Leon, the Spanish explorer who traveled around the world with Christopher Columbus. It stands in the old city of San Juan, Puerto Rico, because Ponce was extremely important to Puerto Rico. He found gold on the island in 1508 and quite naturally decided to move in and set up shop. More than anyone else, he was responsible for the early Spanish colonization of this community. Walk through the streets of old San Juan and you can still see his influence. There's the White House, built as his residence. It still stands, as do many of the buildings originally constructed during those early days of European colonization in the New World. Ponce de Leon undertook a series of exploratory voyages from Puerto Rico and was actually the first European to see the area that's now the United States of America when he discovered Florida. Story goes that Ponce was looking for the fountain of youth, a little spring that would give him perpetual boyhood. Poor guy. Never found it. But these days, scientists are making a really good case for a diet that can at least keep you healthier longer. The key elements are low cholesterol, low fat, low sodium, and lots of complex carbohydrates. It's not as simple as taking a sip from the fountain of youth. Who said it was going to be easy? From San Juan, Puerto Rico, that's what's cooking for today. I'm Bert Wolf.
From dishwashers to refrigerators, a KitchenAid will last.
Through the years.
For a limited time, selected KitchenAid models now come with some very special offers.
Through the years.
So you're shopping at Frank's for great spring values.
Uh-huh. At Frank's, we always spend less money on quality flowers, shrubs.
But what we really like are the great gardening tips.
Less money.
Great tips.
Now, Frank's gives you a lush green lawn with low prices on all Weed Be Gone products. Control harmful weeds without harming your lawn. And discover Frank's quality difference with loving ewes from Zelinka Nurseries. A 2-gallon container is now just $9.99.
Beautiful things begin at
Great tips.
Frank's Nursery and Crafts.
An interesting thing is happening to driving enthusiasts. They're multiplying, and that's a blessed event for the Saab 9000 Turbo, which not only does 0 to 60 faster than a BMW 535i, but has one of the roomiest interiors of any imported sedan. The Saab 9000 Turbo, the sports sedan you grow into, not out of.
The problem with the fires obviously has been that in order to fight the fires, the firefighting crews have required protection themselves. We have had a couple of firemen shot this evening that we know about.
California Governor Pete Wilson early this morning describing the fires and rioting in Los Angeles.
Early this morning, we brought you brief excerpts of remarks made by Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates to CNN concerning what was going on overnight and still unfolding in that city. Gates' remarks were more extensive than that, and we'd like to bring you now a more fully transcribed transcript of what Chief Gates had to say.
One of the things we're doing is sealing off this area, so we're hopeful that we can keep obvious gang members from moving out of this area. But yes, we're concerned about that. We'll be on alert. The entire department, as I said, is mobilized. That increases the size of the department substantially, and we will be alert in all areas.
Do you think we've seen the worst of it now, or do you think when night falls again tonight we might see another round of what we saw last night?
Well, I'm hopeful that when they see the numbers of police officers that are out there, they also know that we mean business. You see, when they first began this, they were looting at will, and no one was paying any attention to them. Matter of fact, police officers were standing back because they were not there in force. Now we're out in force, and I think they're going to realize that we mean business, and they're not going to continue this effort. They're going to go to jail.
Chief, there was also the question, Chief. There was also the question as to why the police department didn't act a lot sooner.
Well, that's always a question, and we wish we had been able to move much more quickly. I've not been happy with the rapidity of our deployment, but as I look at it, we initially the use of our personnel was eaten up by trying to protect the fire department so that they go out and put out some of these fires. That depleted our resources very quickly. Then, as we put officers in squads, we were going to from call to call. That depleted our people very quickly, and it's taken us a long time to get mobilized, but we are now, and I think you'll see that the response to any kind of a need will be much greater. Naturally, we're very unhappy that a bunch of hooligans have gone out and looted and burned the city, much of it, and we think that's tragic for all people, and we're hopeful that they'll come to their senses, and we'll be able to put an end to it very, very quickly. I think as they learn that we are now mobilized and that we are going to put them in jail if they break the law, that they'll realize it's time to go home and rethink what they've been doing. This makes no sense whatsoever. It does not help anything. They're not helping themselves. As a matter of fact, quite frankly, the good people are at home. And what you have out there are people that have just wanted an excuse to steal. They've taken this as an excuse to steal, and that's exactly what you see.
How does rough idea on the arrest?
I'm sorry?
Ballpark figure on the arrest?
I can't give you a ballpark, not at all. I know we're being overwhelmed by the number of arrests. Already I'm getting complaints, and we're going to have to do something about that.
How does daylight change things, or does it?
Well, I hope what daylight will do is when people wake up and take a look out and see the Highway Patrol here, see Los Angeles Police Department out in force, see that we mean business, see the destruction that they have caused, that some of them have caused, that they'll decide that this was not a good thing to do, and hopefully this will end.
Daryl Gates, whose career as head of the LAPD was cut sharply short by, among other things, the Rodney King beating, still in charge in this violent aftermath of the King verdict. Donna?
As day unfolds in Los Angeles, Police Chief Daryl Gates says he hopes to control the rioting without bringing in the National Guard, though the Guard has been mobilized. So far, at least 8 people have died. More than 100 others have been hurt. CNN's Gloria Hillard has an update.
Fueled by anger, South Central Los Angeles erupted within hours of the Rodney King verdict. Buildings became infernos. Firefighters responding to the blazes were met with hostility. Several firefighters were reportedly shot at. Police with shotguns stood guard. Looters swept through the streets, taking anything they could carry. Even a small girl sought bounty from the streets of Los Angeles. From the sky, television news helicopters broadcast live footage of the rampage below. One of the most horrifying pictures of the evening occurred when teenagers attacked a couple of drivers they pulled from their vehicles. City buildings were stormed. A bus and a police car overturned.
With it being on camera, I mean, as far as we are concerned, the evidence was there. So when it went to trial, we had a feeling that something like this might happen.
The only way they know to express themselves is their anger, is their violence. So until you improve the community, until you put schools there, and you teach them and you give them justice, this is going to keep happening and happening again.
I can understand how they feel, but I don't agree. Because this is our neighborhood, this is the recession. People are going to come here and have no jobs. No jobs.
Governor Pete Wilson declared a state of emergency in Los Angeles County and said he has made available some 2,000 National Guardsmen ready to move in with tanks if necessary.
There is going to be every effort made to protect people who need protection. The violation of law clearly is not going to assist anyone. It simply makes a problem much worse.
Most of the violence was concentrated in the black areas of the city, but as the night wore on, there were flare-ups around the greater Los Angeles area. Mayor Tom Bradley issued this plea to the community.
I know that we must express our profound outrage, our anger, but we must do so in ways that bring honor to ourselves and our community.
Police asked television and radio stations to urge residents to stay home and off the streets.
So the best thing for you to do is just get away from here and come back tomorrow.
Police Chief Daryl Gates told reporters a dusk to dawn curfew was being issued for the ravaged areas of the city.
A ban on gun sales, ban on selling of gasoline except into a automobile tank. And as we move forward, I think we'll be able to get this thing under control, but it's going to take some time.
Through the night, the fires and feelings continued to smolder, reminding many of August 1965, when the Watts riot scarred this city and seared lasting images into a national consciousness. Gloria Hillard, CNN, Los Angeles.
World Day is next. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bob Cain.
And I'm Donna Kelley at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
Coming up, World Day, followed by Day Watch, after a word from your local cable system, here on CNN.
If you loved me half as much as I loved you,
his voice is loved around the world.
You wouldn't worry me.
The rich, warm sound of Roger Whittaker.
Once in a while he won't call.
Now, Heartland Music presents Roger Whittaker in his all-new collection, Sincerely Yours.
Oh, my papa, to me he was so wonderful. I can't stop loving you.
Roger's voice is more beautiful than ever in his all-new collection.
I remember the night and the Tennessee Waltz.
2 great albums.
Did you ever know that you're my hero?
favorite songs.
And everything I'd like to be. Hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song? Down the lane I walk with my sweet Mary.
Remember, Roger Whittaker's all-new collection is not in stores.
I'll be loving you.
Stay tuned to order.
Always.
To order, call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 to save all COD charges and pay only $12.98 for records or cassettes or $16.98 for compact disc, plus $3 shipping. Use your credit card or send check or money order to Roger Whittaker, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, to save all COD charges, send check or money order or use your credit card.